Welcome to Universal Man, where we turn your flight into fight so that you can master yourself and conquer your goals. My name is Mark Weppett, and I am here to help you sharpen your masculine edge so that you can become a man that you admire. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how you need to stop eating turd sandwiches. Okay, I know you're hooked on them. I've been hooked on them myself, but you need to stop eating them. And what am I talking about? Well, a turd sandwich is basically a self-deception. It's when you say, hey, I should do this thing. Part of it looks really good, and as long as I only focus on this good-looking part, then maybe I could ignore that turd that's nestled in there. And really, what this is it's a way in which you trick yourself into doing stuff that's really not good for you. So stop doing that, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Yeah, the turd sandwich. This is an analogy that I've used to help a lot of guys get over bad habits, okay? Because, people ask me, they're like, oh man, well, I have this thing I like doing and it feels really good when I do it and I'm kind of hooked on it, but it keeps kind of screwing up my life. So porn, major example right there. And I'm like, well, you have to look at the full perspective of it, okay? Because a lot of times what ends up happening is that we only look at one narrow facet of what we're interacting with. So for example, with porn, okay? If you're just going to look at it from the perspective of an urge, like when you're triggered to watch porn or something like that, then all you're seeing is that tasty part of the sandwich, okay? All you're seeing is, a well-made, brioche bun with, some nice meat and cheese and maybe some lettuce and whatever kind of sandwich you like. That's what you're seeing. And it's like, oh, that looks tasty. I want to take a bite of that. And so you do. And then, for a second, it's like, yeah, this is great. This is wonderful. And as time goes on, as you keep eating it, you realize, this isn't making me feel good. Oh, this isn't really paying off so well. Something's kind of gross in here. It's not working out well. And that's the turd. That's the turd hidden in the sandwich. And so a lot of guys, they've eaten so many turd sandwiches that they've maybe even acquired a taste for it or an immunity to it to an extent. But the problem is you're still eating them and it's not making you any healthier. It's not making you any stronger. It's not making you any better. And so the solution is to learn how to see the truth of what you're doing. And what this requires is that you step beyond your immediate perceptions. You step beyond that initial kind of impulse that hits you. So, for example, with a guy who's watching porn, well, it's like, all right, how does it affect you in the long run? How does it make you feel overall? And if you can look back and be like, yeah, well, it kind of sucks up a lot of time, sucks up a lot of energy. It causes me to compromise my morals and values. Maybe it causes some sexual dysfunction in my life. Maybe it's keeping me from going out and forming the relationships that I want. All this kind of stuff, that's the turd. And if you think about the turd when you're triggered, it makes you much less likely to actually take a bite of it, right? But if you ignore it, if you just fall into that self-deception of like, maybe I can kind of just like nibble around it. It's like, what are you doing? No, stop it. Stop it. That's gross. Okay. It's not working out. Another place that I've seen this being, helpful for guys is, they always are looking at, this is specifically with guys in marriages or in committed relationships where they're, hooked on this idea of like, I need to get this other girl, or I see this pretty girl and I just get this like overwhelming feeling of like lack and longing, or like, what if I could be with her? Or what if my wife looked differently, or my girlfriend looked differently, or, what if she behaved this way or that way in bed? And they get so hooked up on that. And then they are seeing these women and they're thinking about cheating and that kind of thing. I'm like, well, you got to look at the full perspective. Okay. You can't just look at that potential of a different relationship without looking at all the ramifications. So if you're married, it means either cheating on your wife or it means having an affair, okay? And both of those are very ugly situations. There is no happiness in there. That's the turd, okay? You can't consider sex with another person without also considering all of that, And I think the reason why people get sucked into these kind of situations is because our society, it trains us to operate in this fantasy realm where you can take something out of its real circumstances and put it in sort of this fantasy world where there's no strings attached and, there's no consequences. That's what porn is. Porn's like, oh yeah, I have this perfect person with this perfect body and I'm having this perfect sex and everything's great. But that's completely disconnected from the real world. That's completely disconnected from who you actually are. It's completely disconnected from that person who is actually on the screen. It's disconnected from your actual relationships, your actual responsibilities, and all that kind of stuff. And people like that. They like to be able to just shed all of the baggage so that they can have this, they can enjoy their little slice of the sandwich, and they can like to pretend that, as long as they're eating it and, they're just ignoring the turd for the moment, then they can just keep going on and being happy. And I just don't think it works. I think the solution is you need to live in reality. And so this takes discipline. This takes what you might call metacognition. It takes the capability to override your emotional impulses, or at least expand the emotional impulse with more information. So, your emotional mind, a lot of times it pitches you a very lopsided perspective of what is in front of you. It's always feeding you kind of half truths. It's presenting that sandwich at an angle where you can't quite see the turd. Okay. And you have to be like, oh no, there is one there. Like if you just open it up, it's right there and it's real nasty. Okay. And you have to do that with your rational mind, because your emotional mind, a lot of times you may have trained it to not see those things, or, and this works in a lot of different directions. So I mentioned kind of the sexual areas, but even in just general comfort, okay? Like, that whole part of you that wants to say, hey, screw it, I'll just watch some TV and goof off today instead of going to the gym, okay? That's just another turd sandwich right there. That's all it is. It's just a self-deception, because it's ultimately not something you're looking for. It's not something that's really gonna nurture you and bring you fulfillment and satisfaction and all that kind of stuff, okay? And I think the big thing, I think we all know this more or less. I think we all know the turd sandwiches that we're eating in life, but I think we're afraid. And, I can speak for myself here, because I've been feeding myself these things my whole life. And the main reason I've found within myself is that I'm afraid. I'm afraid because maybe if I don't eat that turd sandwich, then maybe I don't have anything. Okay, maybe I don't know. It's like, well, I don't have a sandwich then, and I'm hungry and I need stuff. I want to feel good. I want to have fulfillment. I want to have stimulation. I want to have the stuff, and I don't know how to make it without the turd sandwich. And it's like, what do you do? What do you do? Or maybe you're lazy. Maybe part of it's laziness. It's like, oh, well, this one's sitting here, right here, ready to go. And, yeah, maybe it's got a turd in there, but, it saves me the effort of having to go and actually make one myself. And I think what it comes down to is basically just like, man the hell up and make a better sandwich. Make a real one. Get up off your ass and start making one. And you go to the fridge and you realize, oh crap, all I have is some Wonder Bread and some ketchup. Okay, well start eating frickin' Wonder Bread and ketchup sandwiches. That's not great. That's kind of nasty, but it's better than a frickin' turd sandwich. All right. And so what I mean by that is start small and work with what you've got and be satisfied with that. And then you can expand your palette. You can expand the experiences in front of you. You can expand your opportunities, and you can get more and more fulfillment. So like, this is where the Jordan Peterson clean your room stuff comes in, where it's gotten so popular, because, he tells it how it is. For a lot of guys, that's where you got to start. Clean your room. That's you making that Wonder Bread and ketchup sandwich, okay? It's not going to be great, but it's going to be better than a turd sandwich. You're going to actually get some kind of actual nutrition that doesn't like poison you, okay? And by nutrition, I'm talking about like mental, emotional, spiritual nutrition, okay? And it's like, do that little thing. And, that's kind of maybe the equivalent of going to the grocery store and buying a few more things for your sandwich, right? And it lets you open up a whole new door to get better stuff in your life. So that's kind of the bottom line point I want to make today, is like, name your turd sandwiches. What are the ones that you've been eating and like, making you sick, making you disgusting, making you kind of behave in a way that is far beneath your own dignity? Identify those things and just stop freaking shoving them down, okay? Be honest about what they are. And it's a painful truth, and it's a truth that then requires action from you. But it's an action that you can take. All right. And so just do it. Just make your life better. Stop doing bad stuff for yourself. That's pretty much all I have to say in this one. Stay sharp.